If you have a question, raise your hand. We have a microphone box in the back. And just a reminder, we do have our virtual presenters.
Robin had to drop off for another meeting.
Okay.
You can certainly share email contact if anybody has specific questions.
Okay, perfect. So let us know what presenter you're targeting with your question.
So Dr. Holtkamp, thank you for your presentation on kind of the autopsy on how it moved around, right? I think that's one of the things that we often want to know as soon as possible with PRRS or any other disease. I'm curious, your theories look pretty plausible on the movement there, but did you study at all where the initial case might have come from? Did you have it figure out where that APP originally came from in that neighborhood?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's an important piece of information in a 10-minute presentation that gets left off. And in this case, APP serotype 15 is not common in the U.S., but these weren't the first cases we've had in the U.S., right? The APP serotype 15 has been around for quite a long time. I believe it goes all the way back to 2010. Dr. Marcelo Almeida has been doing some really nice work doing sequencing, looking at the genomic characteristics of the virus or of the bacteria. I deal with viruses so often I can't just stop saying that, but dealing with the genomic characteristics of that bacteria, and there are some things that have changed, I think, recently here, and this one was a little bit more pathogenic, killed more pigs at a little bit higher death rates than we typically had seen, and so it's a good reminder. We put labels on these bacteria or viruses. We call them lineage 1C variant, or those types of things. And in this case, serotype 15. But there's differences within those, right? And so this particular serotype 15, I think actually almost all of them that we got in this these 20 were very, very similar. And so we don't really know exactly where that started, but we do know there was one of these cases where we think it came from the sow farm, but it was actually the one that was different, right? So there was one that was a little bit different on a dendrogram, and so we don't really exactly know the answer of where this specific, if I could call, we haven't labeled it, but we probably should label a subtype of serotype 15, but we don't exactly know where that new sort of bacteria rose, but I think I'll defer. Marcelo Almeida again is getting ready to publish some information on that. I think he may have learned a little bit more even since the last time I talked to him about that. But I think as of now, as far as I know, we don't really know for sure.
Thanks, Dr. Holtkamp. We'll take one more question, and then.
Time to get through a few.
Okay, perfect.
Very quickly, Dr. Gebhardt, these bulk feeds coming from countries that have ASF in them, what degree and intensity of testing of those sources is happening?
Yes.
What contamination have you found positive bulk feed samples with ASF in them?
To my knowledge, I'm not aware of any data that's ever tested bulk ingredients coming in. With some of the testing requirements, particularly for FAD like ASF, that testing is not available outside of federal labs here in the United States, and to my knowledge, that testing has not been done for risk of false positives and the lack of approved diagnostic techniques, certainly for environmental samples or specifically feed ingredients.
Thanks for your presentations. As it pertains to the swine industry, how do we get more producers involved in programs? Dr. Rademacher was part of your presentation, but how do you envision that we as an industry can get more producers and more companies involved in trying to raise awareness of some of the issues and how we can control it before it happens?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like I said, I think we've had a good start with U.S. Ship, and that really was, we've had these tools out there, and I think we've been talking about FADs for years. At least from where I sit, I think, the industry got a wake-up call when it hit China, right? Because we obtained a lot of feed ingredients and supplies and things like that. for me, I think at that point, it seemed like we started to see producers really start to get serious about it and start to utilize some of those tools, Secure Pork Supply and AgView and things like that. The thing I appreciate, I think, about CHIP is that really the first attempt to utilize all those tools and get it into a program, right? A program that, is internationally recognized. So that thing has taken off very quickly. It's got a lot of industry support, but yeah, it's, we've gotten a lot of the early adopters. It's like anything, it's a bell-shaped curve. We've gotten a lot of the early adopters. Now it's, so you can say we've got the first 50%. Now it's how do we get the last 50%. So a lot of it, I think, is we just got to keep talking to people about it. There's been a lot of work done. This was really kind of started off, between a bunch of investigators between, Iowa State and University of Illinois and Kansas State collaborators. That's being moved into a GCC, a general counsel, being moved more back over to a producer-led type of initiative, rather than just kind of started out as a small research project, really in the truest sense. So. I'm sure it'll come up at Pork Forum this year. So, we just got to continue to talk about it. But yeah, it's a great question, right? It's just like anything. It's change and it's hard, and people are like, well, it's just one more thing we got to do. But this one's important. I mean, I really do believe.
I may suggest in some previous experiences, all producers utilize advisors. And if we can help better train those advisors, they will make the dent on the producer network itself. And I really believe that veterinarians that are sitting in this room, as well as the many advisors, nutritionists, veterinarians, production systems, that can help raise the awareness and make sure that producers, just as we learned from APP, there's some important things that should not have happened if you're really involved in a significant, important production system. So,
Yep,
thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.